Welcome to the UK Makers Podcast, Episode 2. I'm James.
I'm Rosie.
And I'm Matt.
Another day, another podcast. It's going well. Thank you for everybody's warm welcomes to our new podcast, our new venture between the trio of us. Thank you very much.
I think between the three of us, we've all had quite a fair amount of feedback, haven't we, from people?
No, it's been great. It has been really, really great. Apart from myself, which I hate the way I talk and the way I sound. It's just, has anyone else listened back to our podcast from last week?
Yep.
Yeah.
Don't you hate it? Absolutely
hate it. I hate my own voice.
It reminded me of being like, what was I, 7 or 8, and listening to my voice back for the first time on a tape deck.
Oh, it's rough.
And you just die
terrible.
a little inside.
Yeah.
Listening to it. It's just like, do people really hear this, like, daily?
Oh, it's horrendous. But I looked at the views, and it was good. It was very, very healthy. And, we're not massive on Instagram, all of us, but there is obviously people out there with common interests. And, people like us, which is, quite good. And there's even people who have actually confessed to listening through it the whole way through. So well done. You get nothing, but thanks. So, Matt, kick off the show. What's the topics of today?
So the topic today is tool addicts, which I think when you may have even said it in the first episode, we've all got a little soft spot for a particular type of tool. I was wondering what your guys' favourite sort of hand tools are, what you always keep an eye out for on eBay or Facebook Marketplace.
That's hard. Rosie, to be honest, you're probably the most hand tool collectory out of all of us, I'd say. So I think you should kick it off.
Yeah, I was kind of wondering why, you just gave me an episode just for me, to be honest. But, basically, what I look out for is adjustable spanners, anything to do with, like, metrology, so, like, measuring tools.
Yeah.
Yeah. Quite a lot of things. You should see all the saved searches on my eBay. I think there's about 22. I go on every day to check all the new listings and stuff like that. And yeah, I always hit my watch limit every other day. So it's bad.
Now, country of origin. Now, I know this is let's not get into a little bit of a grey area here, but are you talking anything that's kind of weird, funky, pattern level, funky stuff? Are you going for only made in the UK, or are you looking at, across the seas? What tickles you in a way?
Adjustable spanners. It did just start off with King Dick, Tool Addict Ben. Yep. Tool Addict Ben, actually, he says to me, look, stick to, like, certain things to collect, otherwise it just gets messy. And I sit and talk to myself, right, okay, stick to a couple of things, and then, I didn't take his advice, and now everything's a mess, and I keep wanting more and more. But adjustable spanners, I just kind of look, at the moment, I've got the adjustable spanner book, so I look in that, I'm just like, ooh, quite fancy that one. I'll keep an eye out for that one. So I have like 2 searches. I have adjustable wrench and adjustable spanner. So like obviously people call it different things. So I have 2 of them. You get different kind of results. But now I really like tiny wrenches, tiny adjustables. I love them so much. So if I see like there's any like 3 or 4 inch ones, then I want them. I want them all. Speaking of eBay,
in 14 minutes. Sorry guys, gotta go. Sorry, I'll put my phone
I just
on.
actually got one as well. It's for 3 vintage adjustable spanners.
Shit, we're bidding on the same thing.
Are we?
No, I'm joking. Mine is a Nintendo Switch dock. No, I get that. I've got a question for you, Rosie.
Right.
You say you've got this book. Now, I have a few adjustable spanners, not on the level of what you've got. But when you look through that book and you look at what you've got, how much of the surface have you actually scratched? Because I know there's a lot of patents out there for that race to the adjustable, all singing, all dancing spanner, kind of the turn of the century. How many have you ticked off in the collector's, like the stamp book?
Yeah, not a whole lot, because there is a lot. There is a lot. And there's some, like, they get that get listed on eBay. Sometimes, I work at Asda, and I'm at college, so I don't earn a lot of money. So, like, the really good ones I can't really afford, but it's just like I can nearly touch them. And it's just like, how far do I go to get one of these really cool wrenches or spanners that, other people would pay the money for? So, like, I've only, like, scratched the surface, and I do get really good deals on what I do buy. But otherwise, it's just really expensive because
understatement.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Like the really rare ones, like they go for big money. So
you're a proper bloodhound. Like you find things that are completely, no one kind of looks type thing. I mean, I go to like a lot of car boots and auto jumbles, and the auto jumbles are like better than car boots or tool collectors fairs. Because the problem with tool collectors fairs, everybody knows what everything is. So, it's kind of like market price. Mm-hmm. But I mean, for you, what is the holy grail, so to speak? What's something that you're looking out there? Maybe one of our listeners has it in a drawer and think, I don't really want that,
Well, actually, it's funny you should say that. Currently, it's an Ernest Osmond adjustable.
Ernest Osmond?
Yeah. It's actually one of the first ones that I kind of noticed outside King Dick or Abingdon.
What was that again, Rosie? An Ernest
Osmond. I believe I'm saying that right.
Spanner. I'm searching it. I can't share my screen because I'm recording it. So
if you can't find it, I'll send you a link to one.
Put a link on your Instagram, and then people can kind of have a look. To me, that looks like a King Dick Abingdon adjustable.
Yeah, but it's the fact that like they hardly ever come up. So I'm obviously going to be like, I kind of want that one.
Is it because of the sort of rounded, crested top that it's got to it by the looks of it?
Yeah. I actually did spot one on eBay. Really? So I'm keeping my eye on that, yeah. I'm just trying to find it. There we go.
Is this where we're going to have to release the podcast after the...
it ends in 4 days and 20 hours, so we've got 4 days.
You know what's quite funny, Rosie? I think the reason why we kind of virtually met through Instagram is because I have, and then you have, some World War II U-boat adjustable spanners.
Yep.
From Germany. Is that one of the first times that we kind of, I don't know, probably properly spoke really about our addiction?
Yeah, we would reply to each other's stories and stuff like that, but properly having a conversation, I think it was the U-boat spanners. Yeah. And I actually got that one, I think, at a good price. But then I seen it go cheaper.
I got to look these up. I didn't know they were a thing.
Very typical of the period, extremely well made for what they are, and very simple. Like really German technology. Very cool.
Yeah. I actually first came across them on eBay, but it wasn't like the Hubert ones. It was a Terry's spanner, turbine spanner. Yeah, that's the first time I came across one of those. It's like the shims in it. Like, move the shims.
Can you explain to the listeners, just try it? It's really hard. I could have a go, but I think you do it better than me. How would you describe...
To describe these, it looks like a normal open-ended spanner, but it's got, I'd say a pin. You'd say a pin, and it's got there's like loads of thin metal shims on it. sort of thing.
Like 1 millimeter thickness.
Yeah, and to get the correct size, you just, remove as many of the shims or add as many of the metal shims to, make the right size for the nut or bolt that you're undoing, sort of thing, eh?
I think the thing that gets me, they actually work. Like, they're actually pretty good. They're very slim. They're very adjustable, obviously. But it's that Baco pattern that's, I think, just, you think of an adjustable, that's what you think of now. I think they won the race, so to speak.
Mm.
I mean, what's the value of a German U-boat spanner? What they call Hubers, are they? Hubers?
Yeah. Well, depends, because I think the number 1 is quite popular, and obviously the more there is, the lower the price, sort of thing. But people, just go ape shit for them for some reason. But the other, I think number 2, number 3 are more rare, but I wouldn't say really rare. Like, people, if they buy them, they keep a hold of them, sort of thing, so they don't really tend to sell them.
I mean, not going too much into detail, obviously we all know what happened, but what I'd love to know is, how did they get here? Because they've obviously come from the other side, during that time frame of the 1938 to 45. But, were they in the hands of somebody and then they weren't, or was it later that there was just a surplus? I
think somewhere on the... Is it Norfolk coast, or it might be on the Kentish coast?
Yeah.
There's a load of pontoons sticking out where all the U-boats after the war were brought in, the ones that surrendered or whatever,
right,
or were captured, and they broke them down.
Well,
so that's probably going to be where their sort of origin, if you like, in terms of when they came into the UK.
Unless they brought them here. The enemy soldiers, they maybe pocketed these spanners and then like, I'll just move to the UK and bring them over. Or people going on holiday buying them. So, I don't know.
Well,
you don't know.
It's funny you say this. I got in my so my grandfather, he had in his workshop for ages this standard black box. It was like a crate, and it wasn't until later, like years, when I questioned him about it, where it came from. It had been his dad's, and his dad had used it whilst he was I think he was a plasterer up in the north of England.
Right.
But he had bought it from an army surplus store, and there was some insignia on it. And I typed it in. It turned out to be a German-made ammunitions crate.
All right.
And somehow that wound up over here as well. So I don't know if it was something that came over during the 50s, when obviously people were doing their service over in Germany. But yeah, it was another random bit of kit that seemed to, you wind up thinking, how did it wind up over here, sort of thing.
Just on a slightly different topic, I have a pair of genuine Stilsons that were given to me by a fireman, of all things. And they were from, it was a fireman, and I think I'm going to get slated for this if I get it wrong. It was an American-made fire engine that was brought over from the States, and they're very common. I've got Dennis in my head, but I think Dennis might have been a UK mate. I don't know. But that was filled full of like a snap-on toolkit, and it had these genuine Stilsons. And it's really weird. Over here, we get like record-made Stilsons, but these are genuine like Stilsons from...
Tell me more about this Dennis company.
I don't know. He was a really nice old boy who used to live about 4 boats down from me, and he was a fireman, and his boat was covered in brass things because that's what they did as firemen. And he said the nicest fire trucks that they ever had. I want to say it was Dennis, but I think it's Dennis because I've seen a Dennis fire engine, and I think they're probably made in Luton or somewhere like that. I don't know. But it was a very old vintage fire truck that they had, but it was immaculate because fire people just like look after the fire trucks, don't they, really amazingly well. So I think the manufacturer of the fire engine was Dennis, but I might be just cross-thinking that with, I already know that a Dennis is a fire engine that's seen a lot in the UK. I don't know. I don't want to offend anybody. I genuinely don't know. But what I'm saying is, it came over with like a full set of snap-on tools and a genuine Stilsons, which I thought was very, very cool. But again, relating it back to the Huber spanners, maybe that there's some German tech that after the war that we pillaged or whatever, and each one came with one of these spanners. I don't know why there's a massive influx. I mean, I'm not thinking like Volkswagen Beetles of the time had one of these spanners in it. I don't know, but a lot of Hazet tools, Hazet, a lot of their spanners, and the cool toolkits and the original stuff came with the Beetles. It was quite nice.
Yep. Speaking of Hazet, I am on the lookout when I get my bigger shed. One of the tool trolleys.
I knew you were going to say that.
I fucking want one so bad. They are so cool. So cool. I don't care for crap. They look so cool. Imagine me walking up the middle of my shed, pushing my Hazet trolley full of my lathe tools.
That's only got time for one squeak, though, isn't it? Because you've only got a little shed.
No, when I get my bigger shed, I have somewhere to put it, and I can roll it up and down my shed, like with my lathe tools and all the tools that I use often. Yeah, I'll be like a Cheshire cat. Like, I'll be fucking grinning.
Just to prove how little I know about this, I'm having to Google a lot of what you guys are talking about now.
Poor Matt.
Is this the multi-layered sort of cart?
Yeah, that's the finger trapper. That is the finger trapper.
What, can you adjust the heights of those levels? Is that
all of those concertina down into the trolley bit?
Mm-hmm.
Funny enough, in Reading, there's about 3 of those in a Reading scrapyard. And one of the technicians at work kind of had I think Draper copied it in like the 80s. I want to say someone like Draper or some brand like that kind of copied it. And I think he called it the finger trapper because the little catches would break and, would trap your fingers. But I've no idea. But Rosie, if that's the dream, you go for it.
That is my dream. And I've seen them on eBay, and it's just like, I could probably get one, but I have nowhere to put it currently, so I don't see the point.
Yeah.
If they keep popping up and I have the bigger shed or whatever, I will 100%. There's no doubt that I will buy one.
I had the same feeling years ago when I was collecting tools and kind of building up my kit. All of my kit at one point was all AF spanners, and because I used to work on classic Triumphs, and I really wanted like a period cantilever toolbox, and the really, really nice ones for me were the Blue Point barn box. So it's made by Blue Point Snap-on, but it had a really beautiful embossed pressed steel Blue Point embossing on it. Looked really, really cool. Spent loads of time like getting all the little bits of rust and then painting it. And they were notorious for rotting your tools. The old cantilever toolboxes. As soon as you put any metal tools in them, they instantly go rusty.
Yeah.
And I just kind of fell out of love with it, and I think I sold it. But again, they were really, really amazingly well made. And I keep trying to find the original Snap-on toolbox. I say it's from the 40s, but it's got a fully curved front. Sealy make a cream version of it, like a knockoff. You know which ones I mean.
Yeah.
I've seen it,
They look like a Smeg fridge, the original unboxed. That's it, right? That's what they look like.
It's a good way to, people who aren't really into tools, that's a good way to, say to them, look, I'm after this toolbox, but it looks like a Smeg fridge. Is 100%.
That's honestly what it looks like. And I think the doors, it doesn't lift up from the top like this is a Kennedy box. It doesn't lift up like that if you're watching this on YouTube. It has like these French doors on the front, and there's not many pictures that actually exist. But I was looking at one of those for years when I actually used to like Snap-on tools. I like vintage Snap-on tools. I don't particularly like modern day Snap-on tools. But we're not getting to that.
I'm the same.
We're going to piss off a lot of people with this episode.
Yeah, I know.
We're going to piss off so many people.
I really like the old Snap-on tools, but if someone handed me a chrome-plated one, I'd be like, You can take that back. It's fine. Yeah, I wouldn't take it.
Now, this is a bit controversial as such. I don't work in a professional environment anymore with my hands. You know, I'm not. I don't work on cars anymore. I don't work in aerospace. The rate van used to come around every week, and then I bought into it. I had about $2,500 at the age of 17 debt, which doesn't really mean anything when you're that age. You know, I was like, oh, an air saw? It's 500 quid. It's £490 on offer. Yes, I will buy that and I'll pay it off for the next 40 years of my life. Yes, I will pay that. So I really bought into that. And a lot of the tools that I bought were aerospace spec tools like rivet guns and special punchers. And I bought some snap-on brass punchers. And they were literally just brass bar turned down. It's not. But I bought it because it had snap-on written on it. You know, and they do get you in. And it is nice cut. It is nice kit, majority of it. But a lot of the stuff that I bought was second-hand. And when that stuff broke, when I traded it in, the things that I would get back was really bad quality. And it's not, you know... I don't want to upset anybody, but that's just my personal view. So where I was going with this is all my sockets now, like my full kits, are all Halfords Professional that were bought 10, 12 years ago, and I've not broken one socket. All the ratchets that I've got are still Snap-on because I bought them secondhand years ago, and they're still the original ratchets. You know, I've not broken anything with that. But yeah, people kind of mock Halfords tools a little bit, but for the home gamer as such, they've been really good for me. You know.
So you guys were talking earlier about the 1940s, 1950s style. There we go, found it. Style toolbox, Snap-on toolbox.
Yeah.
I was going to buy a Bridgeport original tool cabinet.
With the fold out, with
the slide out shelves. And it's chap down this way had it up literally in Clevedon, and I was like, the only problem is the bottom seems to be a bit rusted out, and I was like, I don't know if I can justify, because I haven't got the space in my workshop at the moment to be able to tinker with something of that size. But I've wanted one. Like, I used to have one where I did my apprenticeship, and that was where I used to store everything to do in my mill. And anyway, I ended up going for a bit of a sort of a Google image search sort of thing, and I ended up stumbling across a company called Alemite or Alemite. I've not heard of them before, but they, when you can buy like these whole kits where you get like 2 cupboards for your tools, and then there's a bench in the middle, kitted out with drawers and all of that.
About £2.
They would like the original ones of those, but from the 1940s and 50s. And as you say, look like Smeg fridges.
Yeah.
And they're usually rusted out to hell. Like, they're atrocious, but damn, they look good. I genuinely, what I'd give for one of those.
Is that what you sent me last week?
It might have been when I was telling you about the cabinet. Yeah.
Yeah.
But
I was telling you to buy it.
Oh, they are proper cool. That looks like the Snap-on cabinets of that. So it's probably Snap-on bought them off them. Are they American company or?
I believe so, yeah.
Are they?
I haven't done a proper dive into them yet. I just stumbled across them and was like, damn, they look good. And then that was as far as it went. Because it's one of those things where I'm in the problem where I get a bit of pocket money to spend on my workshop every month, and it is never enough. So.
Yeah, I get it.
Yeah, but that would be pretty cool if I could get my hands on one of those.
Can you send me the link to that website?
Yeah. That's very cool. Matt, you're not really like us in a way with you probably pick up a backhoe adjustable and think, that's fine. It does a job. It serves its function.
I am a little like that, yeah.
Can't blame you. Honestly, it's a much cheaper way to go.
Yeah.
Much cheaper way to go. Buy a fucking backhoe. They're great.
my sort of partial is, well, as Rosie said earlier, is measuring equipment.
Yeah,
as you would expect. But I'm nuts for Mitutoyo. Mitutoyo are my go-to. I bought my first mic. By mic I mean micrometer, for people who may or may not know. from, it was a Mitutoyo economy range back when I started my apprenticeship. So I was like 16, 17. And I've slowly, well, it was more rapid more recently. I've started getting all of the others in that range. The only one I'm missing, I think, is 100 to 125 mil. But I've got from 0 to 25 right the way up to, what was it, 125 to 150. Reason being is because I've got snap gauges or telescopic gauges, and they go up to 150 mil. So if I'm going to be doing anything with those, I need to be able to measure them. But so that's my mainstay is the sort of Mitutoyo micrometers. However, the guy who taught me basically how to machine, a guy called Mike Richards, he used to trawl the car boot sales, and he ended up getting a load of Tessa bore mics.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, now he got I think it was the full set. They were metric, so I think they went from, I think it was something like 8 mil, right the way up to 20, 25 mil, something like that. So it was like a really good set. And if you look them up on the internet now, you're looking, even for 2 or 3 Tessa bore mics, you're looking at 300-400 quid, maybe if not more.
And Tessa are the Swiss, aren't they? Tessa Swiss, like the
I think so, yeah.
Considered really like, Swiss,
high end,
like the Rolex. But
he bought this whole set, and I think it came with an engineering cabinet. And I think he got the whole lot for, I think it was, he went and spoke to her, and she, if my memory serves me right, she said, "Oh, I want 50 quid for the lot." And he said, "Oh, it's a bit much." And he walked away, and then he came back. He said, "Look, I'll give you 30 quid for it." And she said 35. He said, "Oh, fine, okay, 35." So I kid you not, he had the engineering cabinet, like the engineer's machinist cabinet that it came with was, now they're going for what, 180, 200 quid? Yeah. That sort of ballpark alone. Let alone, it must have been grand's worth, because there was other measuring equipment in there as well. And this is where I was going with this story, basically. In there was a 0 to 25 Tessa, I think it was a Brown and Sharp, but Tessa micrometer. So I think they were branded Brown and Sharp, but they were made by Tessa. And they've got like a glass thimble on the, or a glass screen on the thimble of the micrometer. Yeah. And they just look insane. And I've wanted one of those for a little while now, but
I've got one.
You ass.
I know. It's not in great condition, but it's got the what I'd call the dial digital. So it's not digital, but it's got the little dials, and it moves round. I want to say it's like a Tessa Master is what it's called.
Okay.
I'm going to double check, but I've got a Starrett one with the dial, and I think that's a genuine Jedburgh Starrett, which is quite nice. And I've also got a 0 to 6 inch Mitutoyo in the original box, pristine dial caliper. And I tell you, there is nothing smoother than this, and it's been wrapped in cling film for about 6 years of my ownership.
You just know how to make me envious, really, don't you, Pearl?
To be honest, mate, we'll come to some sort of arrangement, I'm sure. But I don't. I think when I was at Rosie's, how do I word this? Not being disrespectful at all with this, Rosie. I've kind of gone through exactly the same process to kind of what you're doing at the minute, and I went full on nuts, spending every bit of my wage packet. Just, going absolutely nuts for this. And now that I'd probably say I've been collecting tools now for 10 years, I've got quite a surplus of things that I just don't really use. And it kind of, now that I know other people that are doing what we do, it kind of makes me a little bit sad and feel a little bit selfish that I've got these things that, as much as I enjoy them, I don't really use them. Kind of. I haven't got many things like that, but there's a few little bits and bobs that I do kind of look at and think someone would got a lot more enjoyment out of these than I would. and they're not going to go anywhere or move. I've got boxes and boxes of Starrett kit. You know, I've got loads. I've got multiple sets of slip gauges and different verniers, and because I used to like Eclipse tools, like early Eclipse tools. I love the branding. So I've got some really nice.
With the big curly E.
Yeah, the curly E.
Yeah, I like that one as well.
So I've got some nice stands and scribe blocks and things like that are, what do you call it? It's like bluing, but there's a word for it, where it's all like different wavy. Like if you look at a nice shotgun, it's got the same pattern on it. And I think they do it by putting in contaminants to make it look like, I want to say it's Damascus-y, but it's not Damascus-y. It's like, I don't know. I can't remember the name. It's going to really annoy me, but it's not.
War finish.
No. It's like the really pretty version of bluing. It's not just one colour. It's got like
anodizing.
No, that's no. I don't know what it's called.
Black oxide.
No. It's a special. There'll be people shouting at their speakers right now. You idiot, James. You idiot. It's
funny. I got an Eclipse clock stand, but I don't know if it was either my uncle or my grandfather acquired it from when they worked at Cam Gears, which I don't know if anybody knows or is aware of Cam Gears, but they were a reasonably big company that used to make bits and bobs, I believe, for the car, specifically steering industry. I think I might be wildly off there, but I've got a lot of little bits in my collection of tools that I either inherited from my grandfather or my uncle, which has got Cam Gears written on it in one way, shape, or form, or on a couple of bits of kit, it's got tool room scratched into it, and then like F. Lear or whoever used it was, whoever deemed it as their bit of kit, or department codes as well, which I think like adds to a little layer of story to whichever piece you happen to have. But
no, I get that. I should probably go through what I look for now, in a way. My tool addictions, which I'm going to talk wood. I know you guys aren't really wood stuff, but we need to woodify this podcast and talk more about wood butchering, because as much as I am an engineer, I am a bit of a wood butcher at the same time. So as soon as anybody says collectible wood-related, carpentry, chippy type stuff, cabinet makeetry, the first thing everybody thinks of is planes, and the old school planes that you see with the wooden furniture on, your records and your Stanley planes, which is the more kind of sought after stuff. So I went for a stage of really going nuts for Stanley planes, and the ones that I actually use is a number 4, which is like the most common. If you go to any car boot sale, there'll be 100 there. And I use a number 5, and that is the 2 that I actually use. And I use spoke shaves, which are like what you make hammer shafts for, and edge rounding, that type of thing, and a draw knife. And I still do look, but I've had to be really, really, really like throttle myself in, because I was getting into it and I was buying like Norris planes, and I managed to get a Norris plane, which is kind of, I don't know if it's like in America, but in the UK, they're like the snap-on of not the same in a way, but they're the desirable wood plane. And if any one of those that are kind of listening and into, you'll know exactly what I mean. But they were beautifully made, I believe in Scotland, of all places, because some of the best woodworkers and cabinetry makers and furniture makers have been in Ireland and in Scotland. And I want to say Norris, and I'm sure Matheson was another really well-known. I think they're in Scotland. Again, I collect these. I don't really know anything about them. I just have quite a few.
Pastry shop.
But yeah, record planes and Stanley planes. All of the numbers are completely nuts. And the one that everybody wants is a Stanley number 1. That is it. So if you ever go to a car boot and you see a Stanley and it says number 1 on the front, you're holding £1,000 plus, Because
does it not depend on can you think of the word, version?
Condition? Or
yeah, in a way. There's
edition, sorry. First edition, Stanley number 1 sort of thing.
The Bailey patterns, but the number one is they were only made it, I think, for a certain amount of time. They were only, I believe, only made in America. So the UK manufacturing plant, I think, only went down to a number 2, which again is really, really rare. Because the reason why they're rare is because they weren't very good, to be honest, because they were a very, very small version, which is often the case. You know, things like if you collect Action Men, like the original Action Men, everybody wants the ginger one because, you know,
nobody else wanted it.
No one wanted the ginger Action Man. You know, it's so funny, these things.
Would it be surprising if I said that I used to play with Action Men?
I don't know what the right thing to say here is, Rosie. I don't know. I'm going to say no comment.
My best friend, when I was younger, lived across the road, and she would play with like Barbies, and I'd bring over my hunky Action Men to play as the Ken. And I've still actually got a lot of them in my mum's garage. Actually, I've got an Action Man Jeep and everything.
Did you? Did you have the Jeep?
I did have the Jeep.
Did you have the?
I like the fact this started off as like
this is
tools,
tools,
and now we're talking
Action Men,
kids' toys.
Oh, bollocks to it. It's fine. Did you have the little toolbox, Rosie? You know, that's like it was green and it had the Action Man logo on it on the top.
I didn't have the toolbox, but I had the Jeep.
Did it? Yeah,
I had the Jeep as well.
Yeah,
with the 50 cal machine gun on the back.
Yeah.
And I had the motorbike. It was a red motorbike, if I remember. I had the mountain bike version, the parachute one.
It's worth mentioning that the Ginger Action Man that I'm talking about is, I think, like the early 70s one, and probably the ones that you were playing with, Rosie, were the my 90s era.
Yeah, 90s.
Right? Yeah.
James, we're the same age.
Yeah, and what I'm saying for the listeners that are people that are potentially...
Hang on. Just for my benefit, how old are you two?
25.
I'm 26.
Are you fuck? Oh,
5.
Has it been your birthday?
No, sorry, I'm 25. I keep saying I'm 26 because it's in my head, and it's in...
Because he was trying to get into the pub when he was younger, and he's just he's just automatically adding that year on.
You know, the funny thing is, I've set my date of birth on my Facebook to 1990 because when I was, 12 or whatever, and he wasn't allowed a Facebook account, everybody lied. So everybody's birthday was in the 1st of January of 1990. So I go onto things now that I'm still, part of, etc. And you're like, what's your date of birth? And you're like, is it my actual date of birth or is it my 1990 birth? So I have to lie to get into these places. But no, the reason why I'm saying this, Rosie, is because I needed to clarify for potentially the older...
Or is it my pretend date of birth?
Well, anyway, the Action Men that we're on about is we had the same Action Men, is what I'm saying here, Rosie.
Yeah.
I'm not talking about the Ginger Action Men, which is the early collectible one that people of 3 generations ago, think that we're talking about. It's not the same ones. We had the plastic, fantastic ones.
Yep.
Moving on.
Yep. Let's go back to tools.
Tools.
Unrealistic bodies of plastic toys.
Yeah. Is Matt frozen for you, Rosie?
It's saying his Wi-Fi is like orange, so I guess it's like kind of spotty.
Okay. Matt, are you still with us?
Yeah.
You look like a faceless
He's like,
man.
yeah, unfortunately.
Oh, he's going. He's gone, I think. Well, he's here, but he's just looking like the faceless men out of Doctor Who. That's what he's looking at.
Well, actually, being as we're just over halfway through.
Yeah. We're still live, everybody. I think we've just got Matt and some technical difficulties. Because he decided to go in his shed where he's got his fancy big mill machine, so he wants to show off. And he's got bad Wi-Fi, and it serves him right. Oh, Matt, go back into your bedroom. Come on. so we can actually hear you.
So, should we talk about our purchases this week, James?
I don't know what you mean, Rosie. I haven't spent anything, just in case my partner's listening. No, I was donated these by a lovely person on Instagram. My donations. Yes. Rosie, you go ahead.
Well, I was hoping you would go first. But then if I go first, I mean, like if I go after you, then it might seem a bit disappointing. So I'll go first.
All right.
So I bought the Myford ML4 lathe.
Nice.
On, when did I go? Friday I've got it. Yeah. Down to Chorley, which was about 3.5 hour drive. Bit longer because it snowed in Scotland, so obviously councils and that, they didn't bother their fucking arses to plough the motorway, so it took me a bit longer. As soon as I got to, where was I? It was like Penrith area. The snow was didn't even exist, so it was easy going. But on my way back, my car decided to go fucking into limp mode, and I was stuck. I was stuck on the A74M just after the Annandale services after fueling up.
No idea.
So that was fun. Yeah, it's
somewhere in Scotland.
Somewhere in Scotland, but it's close to England as well. It was about an hour and a half away from my house. So.
Right. Okay. What was it? Can I ask a bit of a cheeky question? Which is, right. I know what happens when I turn up, but what happens when you turn up? You know, you've spoken to a bloke on the phone. I'm coming to buy you.
You mean because I am a female?
I wasn't going for that route directly, but I was kind of swimming around that.
I kind of got that gist because, you know, obviously when a big man turns up to collect a lathe, he's just like, yeah, I know what I'm talking about. But when a lassie looking like me turns up, but I suppose, you know, sometimes it's a bit shit the way they kind of think I don't know anything sort of thing. But once I say, you know, I'm a mechanical engineer, I'm studying manufacturing, they're like, oh, okay. They probably still assume that I know fuck all, though. But we do end up getting chatting and all that, and they're like, yeah, I'll keep an eye out for you and stuff like that. If I mention anything.
It takes a little bit of time for people to kind of warm up to you, is what you're saying.
Yeah. But the guy I met on Friday was really nice. He was really, really nice.
Was
I didn't get any bad vibes or anything from him. We just talked engineering, really.
I get that because depending on which social circle that I'm in, and from working in a factory in manufacturing, I was always known as Jim Bob. And just purely for the fact that I'm quite lazy, is that when I'm messaging someone on eBay and say, yeah, it's Jim, I'm coming to look at the lathe, best regards, Jim, right? Now, obviously, Jim is quite associated with, you know, old Jim. And so when I turn up, it's like, are you Jim? I went, yes, pal. All right, I was expecting someone a little bit older. I was like, oh, well, yeah, I've got my Father Christmas, bloody facial hair wig in a car if you want to put me on. But no, I totally get that. But it's 100% worse if you're buying woodworking machinery from an older generation. I'm not being nasty against anybody else, but wood lathes and wood turning, semi-full of tossers. I'm gonna throw that out there. If you go and you look at a wood lathe and you go, who are you looking at a wood lathe? You don't know anything. Who are you? You know, all this type of stuff. What the fuck are you doing here? Get off my drive, peasant. But when I kind of go for an engineering, is maybe because I'm a little bit more comfortable talking about the, you know, maybe the engineering side of lathes and how to use one because I've had one for so long. It's kind of like your first 30 seconds are a little bit awkward and they're a bit surprised, and, you know, I turn up in a hoodie and a cap and I look a bit rough and, you know, a little bit unshaven, and I've got a bit of a northern accent, and then you kind of go there.
Same.
And here we have a tool addict in his natural environment, which is more than likely a shithole. Yeah, yeah, that sort of thing. But no, wood turning is like the golf of the hobby world in our world, I'd say. There's a lot of people that, oh, you must have this jig, you must have this fancy chisel, you know, and if you don't, you're a peasant. Don't get me wrong, there's certain places where I love shopping, because places like Taylor Murfield's is run by kind of a similar age bloke. He's in his 30s. Dan is a lovely guy. And I know it sounds bad, but not bad, but I go there. It's really far away from where I live, but I go there because he's a really nice bloke, and he's kind of not looking down on me because I'm, you know, maybe asking a little bit of a silly question, or I do things a little bit differently to a lot of other wood turners. So I found kind of like my dealer, and that sounds bad, my dealer is kind of a cool guy, you know. So that is what I find. So the ML4, sorry, Rosie, let's swing back round. What's it like? What's the condition? How old is it?
I still don't know how old it is, but the guy fully restored it. Everything moves perfectly. It's really nice to touch. I've felt it up. I've groped it in all the places it can be groped. It's really nice. I've still got to, you know, work out some things, because obviously I've not like properly used like change gears or anything like that. So I'm kind of staring at them like, that's how it works. Right, cool, awesome. Right. So, but I think the hardest thing was trying to get it out the boot of my car and then look like an absolute tit rolling this really pretty lathe up, like maybe like 50 yards from the boot of my car to my house on a skateboard.
Nice.
Yes, I mean, where I live, it's not exactly great. So there's like alcoholics across the street walking up and down while I'm pushing my lathe on a skateboard into my garden.
It's fine.
Probably with my arse out, like, because obviously I'm bent down pushing this thing, and it's like I'm not really aware of if my joggers are around my arsehole or not. So whatever.
Great.
But anyway, yeah. But putting it together was pretty solid, because cast iron isn't exactly light, and I'm by myself, no one to help me. But yeah, I got it sorted. It's all bolted down, tightened up, everything moves, and it fit. It's like the space that I had cleared was made exactly for it. And I cleared this space months ago. So
that's cool. So you've got a bit of work to do to like motor mounting, and
yeah, I think I've worked out what I kind of want to do is put the counter shaft on the wall, and then a belt down to the motor.
Yeah.
Which I'll have like kind of midway between the floor and the lathe. I think that's what I'm going to do.
Very nice.
What about you, James? Your purchases this week?
I am a hypocrite, because I have said publicly previously of saying, oh yeah, my lathe I'm going to have forever. I'm going to be buried with it. It's going to go in the cremation thing with me, and it's going to be dust, and we're going to live together in a lathe dusty world in a little box under someone's cupboard somewhere. However, I wasn't looking at planning on buying a lathe, but I am wanting to do more on my lathe, and change gears. I have watched many videos, and I have watched many videos, and I understand how it works, and I can do it, but I don't get that much time in my shed, which is the excuse that I told my good lady that this is the reason why I need to buy a gearbox. Now, anybody that kind of doesn't know, if you buy a Myford ML7 without a gearbox and then try and buy a gearbox on its own to then fit said gearbox to Myford ML7, and it's the proper, I want to say Norbury, something like that, gearbox to it, it ends up costing you probably, I don't know, 800 quid. I'm pulling a figure out there. It's 800 quid on a lathe that's worth £1,000 in essence. So what I've kind of figured out, and it's taken me around 8 months to figure out, and every day looking on eBay, and I've got like a little notification things that come off eBay. So whenever anyone lists a Myford gearbox with lead screw for sale, I kind of jump at it, and then I kind of think, should I buy this, should I not? And then you have to kind of figure out how do you get the lead screw to work, because they're a non-standard lead screw with the original. It's kind of very, very messy, very confusing, and you have to cut a bit of the shaft down from what I remember. So what I've ended up doing is the lathe that I thought I'd never get rid of, I've ended up buying another ML7 tri-lever, which is a completely different thing. It's got a different headstock with fancy levers, and it's got a gearbox fitted to it. And the photos did not do it justice. This is one of the rare occasions where I thought, the photos aren't that great. We'll have a look at it, see what we like. I think I'll probably buy it. I went there and I was just blown away by the condition of the lathe. And it turns out that the guy who owned it, his neighbour died, and who was an actual engineer, and he kind of got it because they needed to clear the house out, and I think he paid like 50 quid for it or something ridiculous. So it's been in his shed for many, many years doing nothing, and he did a little bit of wood on it, and he was like, oh yeah, it was great for making dowels on my for me what's he making, a doll's house. So he was turning probably staircase spindles, whatever, on basically a £2,000 lathe, which is pretty nuts. So he put it up for sale, and I did not get it cheap. I'll be honest, I got there, I started twitching, and I got that kind of fizzy feeling, and I was like, oh, I've got to buy it. I didn't get a bargain. I got a good price, in essence. He was happy, I was happy, and I've got another Myford ML7 tri-lever with gearbox already fitted. So currently I have two Myford ML7s. My old one I will be selling, and my new one I will, of course, be keeping and embracing having a gearbox now instead of having to dick around with change gears. I am a little bit poorer, a lot poorer, I should say, but I'm very excited. And I also bought a new pillar drill, which is a Start Right pillar drill, which is quite sought after. They're quite well wanted, but this one has a gearbox, so it's got a low range and a high range. So it's got something like 8 gears off the top of my head. And I bought that off fellow creative and tool addict Tom French, who is an absolute gem of a bloke. So he's worth following on Instagram. Matt, are you back with us? You're muted, I think. You're not in. So yeah, that is what I bought. I bought a Myford ML7. I bought a new pillar drill that's got a Morse taper 2 in it as well, so it uses the same tooling that my Myford ML7 does in the tailstock, and on my also wood lathe. And I've also got this week another milling machine that's coming. So I've got 2 Myford lathes and now 2 milling machines and 2 pillar drills for metalworking. I've got 6 pillar drills, but 2 of them are. I've got copies of each.
You're
one.
living the dream.
I enjoy the chase. We're talking about tool collecting, and my drug is finding it, the hunt, that kind of, that romantic kind of, oh my God, I found it, I'm in love, I want to be with this adjustable spanner for the rest of my life, and then a week later you've found something else that you want to find and then make love to.
I can relate. I can honestly relate.
Yeah, to me, it's all about the drug. It's the drug of the find of the search, is what I'd say. Matt is still muted. He is waving his arms around.
Like, why is no one listening to me?
You look like Team America. Yeah,
well, it's okay, Matt. Don't cry. It's okay. It's okay.
He's waving his arms like Team America puppet. So I've no idea why he's muted.
Are you okay, hon?
Don't know what he's doing. It is not work at all. It is. The listeners here, Matt is crying. He has had an absolute fit. He's punched the crap out of his milling machine. He's swearing. There's blood everywhere.
Actual tears.
There is actual tears. He's no longer got any hair. There's fire everywhere. The funeral will be in a fortnight. I don't know. But yeah, he's not here. He's not here. So Rosie, just forget Matt. He's not here. He's not working. He's going.
Just
what are you doing
the
with the
two
other
of
lathes?
us. Sorry?
What are you doing with the other lathes? You've got an ML4. You've got a good industry standard machine to go off now. Everything else is rubbish. What are you going to do with it?
So on Friday, I was meant to sell the little grind turn mini lathe. The guy was meant to turn up at 7. However, I was still 75 miles away having car troubles. So what happens is, turns out the guy's a mechanic that was meant to pick up this lathe. So the next day, we arranged for 10 o'clock that he was going to turn up. And first of all, I was asking £130 for this lathe. He hands me 7 £20 notes. He says, keep the change. So he paid £140 for it. He then has a look at my car, brings his OBD reader. No faults come up. Yeah, it's the plug-in scanner. Is he here?
Hello?
Oh! Hey! He's
no
back.
longer on fire. The fire has gone.
Sorry about that, guys. Carry on, Rosie.
That's all right.
So,
OBD reader.
Yeah, the OBD reader. No faults came up, blah, blah, blah. So he buys a lathe, we put it in his car, and he's like, do you want this? He's like dangling the OBD reader in front of me. Do you want this? I was like, I don't really need it. He was like, well, I don't need it either. Do you want it? I was like, aye, go for it then. So he handed me his reader as well. So he paid £10 more than what I was asking and basically threw at me an OBD reader for my piece of shit car. So, yeah, so that one's sold. And I have Gareth, Pippi's Wood Forge, is interested in the Drummond, but unfortunately it's still in 600 pieces, which is good because he doesn't have, it's not high priority on his list currently. So that gives me time to kind of get back together. And I know he wants to try and get into metalworking, probably to make pins for knives that he makes and stuff like that. But yeah, I think he is interested in that one. I've yet to find a buyer for the homemade wood lathe. However, if I do get a bigger shed, I might just keep it.
Yeah, I get that. That's pretty good. I'd say that the size of the lathe that you were selling, and the Drummond especially, is a really, really good, not a lot of money. It hasn't got that kind of sex appeal like Myford's have just yet. Don't get me wrong, the prices have gone from probably being able to spend 150 quid on one to now it's probably 200-300-ish on a Drummond round bed. So they're kind of an up-and-coming lathe, worth getting your hands on, and they're a really good starter, is what I'd say.
Yeah.
I'm interested in getting my hands on a smaller lathe because I'm planning on having a stab at making some gauge pins. So using it almost like a cylindrical grinder. But find it because it's one of those things that do I buy an old one to then semi-butcher it to make it do what I want it to do? Or is that a bit sacrilegious?
No, just do it.
I just buy a cheap Chinesian one? And
what about getting, the inspection centres that you get that have got pins, and they have you put something between them, and then you put a DTI on them to then measure the concentricity and the parallelism of the parts. I can't remember what they're called, but you use them in the surface. I don't know. Tom French has got one, they're basically two tailstocks. You know what I mean? Two tailstocks.
Yeah, I know what you mean. Yeah.
What about one of them? Perfectly flat, perfectly true. Could work.
Well, then how do I make the pins on it? What's your method on that?
Well, you'd have to somehow drive the in between the centres. Where I was kind of going is, if you had something that was already centred to the either end, then you just have to drive effectively make a pissing lathe. So
yeah,
it's the sort of thing that you'd need a cylindrical grinding machine, wouldn't you? Like the old Myfords. Myford did a really nice cylindrical grinder, but then it's a massive machine. So I get your problem there.
Yeah, because of course, I mean, the other thing that I've always wanted in my workshop's a little surface grinder, and I found one in Sheffield, right. But it's just having the excuse to go up there, which I know that we've discussed all about meeting up for the first time heading up that way. So I might sort of, if it's still available when we do that, I might. And I've got the readies to buy it, because that's the other big problem.
Yeah.
But yeah.
No, I get that. Maybe one day, but it's just space in it. I mean, the one for me would be a James and Shipman. Is it a 540? Like that classic, standard tool room grade James and Shipman 540, does everything with proper centers and all the fixtures. Because it's all right buying a surface grinder. Anyone can buy a surface grinder, but trying to find one in decent nick with a load of attachments, because it's the attachments that cost the money. So as a little bit of advice, and I'm sure Rosie will back me up on this, if you are looking at getting into metalworking or any kind of wood turning or any lathe or machine or anything like that, if it's a little bit more to buy one with all the kit, it's a lot cheaper in the long run to buy that one with all the kit on it than buying just a lathe on its own that's, 200 quid, spend 400 quid, for example, or 300 quid. That's my advice, because trying to buy the bits that then fit, people break up machines and then charge you a fortune, and it's just a nightmare.
Yeah. It really is.
It's been an hour, episode 2. We've gone way over track of being around 45, 50 minutes. Matt's had a little bit of technical issues.
Apologies for that.
But you know what? People will still be listening, because we're interesting folk.
Well, you guys dropped out when I dropped out for me, so I couldn't hear what you said. So I'm looking forward to listening back to this.
Well, that's what it was like when I was listening back to the podcast when I had let my dogs out for a piss, and I didn't know what yous were talking about. Making jokes about me being Welsh.
I said, yeah, Rosie's Welsh. I got it right. God. Good old Taffy Rosie. That's what she's known as. Taffers. I think we should wrap it up. Wrap it up, folks. And I want to get my lathe out of my car because it's still in there and I'm covered in sawdust and dirty things.
Well, I've still got an hour in the old workshop before I have to call it a day. So
Are you making my clamp?
No, I still haven't got there yet. I've still been working on this thing.
Yeah.
Adjustable.
I'll do a post about that in a bit.
Do a post.
Right, yeah. Catch you in a bit then, guys.
Thank you very much.
When will this podcast be out?
We're going to wrap it up, Rosie, and then we'll talk Turkish.
Shit. Sorry.
Thank you so much for watching. This has been the UK Makers Podcast, episode 2. Please consider subscribing, liking, and we will see you in the next one. Thank you ever so much. Thank you.